it is important to motivate young people to want to contribute to America, because we are all here. We are all Americans. If you are constantly putting down people and saying, well, you're not American, your voice doesn't matter, then how is that inclusive? How are we actually going to move forward and be we the people,
right,
if you're telling people that they don't matter?
So we're here today with Jessica at a rest area in eastern Iowa, in the middle of nowhere. Jessica is from Idaho, and she's heading to New York State to start a new chapter in her life. And I actually did an earlier interview with her, and it came up as she was talking that Jessica is an angry, childless cat lady, right? What anybody that follows the news, this is what JD Vance has talked about. So kind of comical, but kind of serious. Now, first of all, let's be formal here. So what's your cat's name?
His name's Ravioli.
Ravioli. Making me hungry. That's funny. Hi, Ravioli.
He's like, it's so loud.
But in all seriousness, how does it make you feel listening to JD Vance and just the whole echo chamber, right, of MAGA and Fox News perpetuating this thing? And I wish that I had the video to play, but, in essence, he's saying that, if you don't have kids, if you don't have a family, then you don't care about America. I think that's a fair paraphrase.
Right. I'm gonna let him.
Okay. If you need
no, it's okay.
put Ravioli.
He just wants to not be in my
He doesn't
arms.
want to be in the interview. He's like, contact my press agent. I have nothing to say.
Right.
No comment. Leave me out of this. I don't do politics.
Look, what I was basically saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? I just wanted to ask that question and propose that maybe if we want a healthy ruling class in this country, we should invest more, we should vote more, we should support more people who actually have kids, because those are the people who ultimately have a more direct stake in the future of this country.
Man, if you had called for, I don't know, lowering tax rates to zero or invading Canada or, I don't really know what, making the death penalty mandatory for people who don't get the vaccine, something really radical, they wouldn't even have noticed. The Atlantic would have just nodded. But saying something like that drove them insane. Why?
Well, I think first is because it actually hit a nerve. I mean, these people recognize that they're unhappy. They live in one-bedroom apartments in New York City. They've played their entire lives to win a status game. They're obsessed with their jobs. They're obsessed with their wealth and with their fortunes. And they look at middle America, people who are actually pretty happy with their lives and the choices that they've made. And they hate normal Americans for choosing family over these ridiculous DC and New York status games. And I think because of that, they just get so angry when somebody calls it what it is. It's acceptable if they ignore that it never happens. But when somebody calls out that, look, if you're a miserable cat lady, you should not force your misery on the rest of the country, they just get really upset about it. And I think, by the way, Tucker, it's a good thing that they get upset about it. It suggests that they know that we're hitting a nerve, not just in this campaign, but with this message that we should invest in American families in this country. If nothing else, we should be about healthy, stable families.
How does it make you feel? I mean, it sounds like that you follow the news fairly well. You're kind of
for the most part.
Okay. So what would you say to JD Vance and anybody that feels that if you don't check the box of Ward and June Cleaver, mom and apple pie, having kids and a white picket fence and all of that, that you don't matter or you don't care about America?
I think that's ridiculous. There's so many different people out here in America. I mean, even just the fact that, we learned as a kid it's a melting pot. And there's so many different cultures that have so many different beliefs on what a family or a person or an adult, a kid is supposed to look like. I think that the white picket fence, mom, dad, son, daughter, all straight is is absolutely ridiculous to expect every single person to want that for their life.
Can you love America and not have kids?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I've lived here my whole life.
Okay.
I love being here, and I hope that I get to shape it in the way that I think makes sense, the way that I love America. I hope that I can continue to see that.
Just because you don't have kids, that doesn't mean that you dislike kids, right?
Of course not. No, I love kids.
Okay.
I just don't have them.
Right.
And I might not have them. I might. Who knows?
Right.
But just because I don't doesn't.
And you don't know anybody,
less...
right? It's not like a requirement that, well, unless.
Okay,
do you want to put Ravioli back? Sorry about that. So there's a lot of ways that you can contribute actively to your community, to your state, to America, to society,
Yeah.
and not have kids.
Absolutely. I don't think there's even a question. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that, I mean, what about an 18-year-old, 19-year-old?
Right.
What about people who can't have kids? Like, there's just so many.
Well, I think that's the more
variance, so much
important
variance.
that I've heard a lot of people say is that actually one of the I don't know if he called her out, but on social media, Jennifer Aniston, right, who is very famous, right, from Friends and a lot of movies and stuff, apparently is struggling, right, to get pregnant and desperately wants. And I think there was a quote on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, she says, I hope that you and anybody out there that is trying to have kids doesn't have to go through what I'm going through.
Right.
I don't have kids because I'm not able to physically. I mean, she could adopt, but so there's just so many scenarios that he's not. What do you think about JD Vance?
I don't think I know enough about him or care enough about him to have an opinion. From what I've heard, I don't really like what he's saying, but at the same time, I try to keep an open mind, right?
Okay.
I know that politics are very divided, right? And I know that sometimes he's not speaking for himself, So, I mean, sometimes he's saying what somebody else wants him to say. Sometimes he's being a lot stronger on something because it's all a game and he has to say a certain thing to get a certain vote. And
at the same time, though, too, I think there's a strong bit of just, ignorance.
Yeah. I don't like him, but
Okay.
I don't like him, but I don't think that I could speak on the exact why.
Right.
I just know that I don't. And maybe that's my blindness too.
Right. Well, and to our earlier conversation about, traveling and just getting out and talking, right, getting off of your phone and the internet and TV, is that maybe if he went out and he met people like you, although he is a politician, once again, there's that factor, but I like to think that maybe he'd be like, maybe I need to rephrase or rethink what I'm saying.
Right. And maybe he has said that already. Like, right. I mean,
he's been pretty vocal, so it wasn't a gotcha moment.
Right, yeah.
He said it several times and, he's backed it up. Well, he backed down a little bit, but still.
Yeah. I mean, I think, who knows, right? I think if I sat down at a diner and had a conversation with JD Vance, I'd have a different perspective on who he is, maybe have a different perspective on single childless cat ladies.
All right, but anyways, but to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Okay, so anybody out there, right, that has these preconceived notions of what an angry childless cat lady looks like.
Do I look angry?
Right. How threatening does she look, right? Okay, so once again, right, don't believe everything that you hear on the internet, social media, and on TV, and try to think out of the box, and maybe try to keep your thoughts to yourself. Don't try to force your life right on other people, because there's a lot of ways to contribute to America and to our society.
Yeah.
And there's also, right, you're going through one right now. You close one chapter, you start another one. Who knows what you're going to do in the next year, 5 years, 10 years, right? Maybe you'll have a large family, maybe you'll adopt, but it doesn't really matter.
Right. I'm still an American, regardless.
And there's still tons of places where you can contribute and help out.
Yeah.
And
I will say that it is important to motivate young people to want to contribute to America, because we are all here. We are all Americans. If you are constantly putting down people and saying, well, you're not American, your voice doesn't matter, then how is that inclusive? How are we actually going to move forward and be we the people?
Right.
If you're telling people that they don't matter.
Well, isn't the essence of the Constitution, right, the First Amendment, right, and what America stands for, right, is to have freedom to know that, to your point, right, we the people and all, we're a melting pot, right,
Yeah.
from all over the world and
Right.
different lifestyles. And I think what a lot of people around the world envy, at least, in our better days, envy about the United States is that, you can be whoever you want to be. I mean, right, you have to follow the rules of law. You can't do anything.
Right.
But there's so much more freedom here than in so many other parts of the world,
Right.
and we take that for granted.
Yeah.
And and that's one of our strengths.
Yeah. I think so, and I hope so.
Any parting thoughts on this, or just on the eve of, right, the 2024 presidential election? Maybe any words of wisdom or encouragement that you want to share? Power question.
That's a big question.
Yeah.
I'll say that whatever happens, it's gonna be okay. Whatever happens, it's gonna be okay. I mean, a lot of people have strong feelings when the person goes into office and they don't want it to be in office. And I think the good thing to remember is that there's checks and balances. There's more to the government than the president. And at the end of the day, we just have to keep focusing, right, what we were talking about earlier, on the communities, on the people next to you, on your friends, on your family, what you can do in your local government, in your local community, and that speaks way louder than who's at the top.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And to kind of use a sports analogy, right, there's always next season, right, next year, next 4 years. And I mean, on one hand, right, I mean, we do need to be careful, because I do personally think that democracy is on the ballot.
Yes.
And I think there are a lot of scary things that people need to wake up and say, wait a minute, we're going too far.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, we've survived all of this time, right? You can go back every decade, every generation, and they were like, oh my God, it's the end of the world when this person is elected, this person is president, this thing happens.
Yeah.
And somehow we've always been able to rise above that and come together.
Yeah. I'll say, as I approach 30, I see a lot. I understand the history repeats itself thing a lot more, because as a kid, and even in my young 20s, you only see what's happening. You don't really get the whole picture. But as I've talked to older family members and I've just grown up and seen things a little bit differently, things are not as bad as they seem. Although, as I say that, that's a very sensitive. There's a lot of things that are happening in our world, in our communities, in our country, that need to be addressed, absolutely. But at the same time, it's just good to remember that it's a long fight, right? It's
right.
something that we're gonna take one step back and maybe 2 steps forward. We have to hope that we can take 2 steps forward.
Right. Well, and some things that we talked about, right, in this interview and off cameras, is that a lot of this divisiveness, right, it turns into an avalanche online.
Yeah.
Right. And because I just interviewed a gentleman, I don't know, like about 40 miles west of here, right? I'm heading east. I'm on my way to Chicago, 90 years old. So, right, has a lot more perspective on life than you and I do.
Right.
And, he had talked about how people just need to start being nice to each other, right?
Yeah.
And start, talking and listening, and sometimes, once again, agreeing to disagree.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, I live by these days, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. It doesn't cost anything to be kind.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, well, anyways, with that, I've taken up enough of your time. You have a long drive.
I do.
Right? But I wish you the best of luck, right, in your journey, safe travels, and best of luck, your future chapters. And remember, right, you have the pen, you have the paper, you can, for the most part, write whatever you want, and so do it.
Yeah.
And JD Vance, just, as an old girlfriend once told me, take a long walk off of a short pier.
My mom says that too.
Okay. It's just like, really, okay, this is what an angry childless cat lady looks like. And, be careful, because someday she might be governor or president or some really big, important person.
Yeah.
And if this is as bad as an angry childless cat lady gets, I think that this is a non-event, right? We have bigger problems to worry about.
Right.
Send my apologies to Ravioli. I'm sorry if I traumatized your cat.
He's fine.
And happy Labor Day weekend 2024, and best
yeah.
of luck in all you do. And don't forget to vote.
Oh, absolutely not. Don't forget to vote.
There you go. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.